morning. Thank you so much for joining me in my queendom for another exciting episode of Queening with the Empress with me, your host, Patience Cat Piri. My guest today, I am so excited. If my face doesn't show it, I don't know, change your glasses or something, because we've been trying to get this meeting and life has been happening and happening. And finally, life was like, stop. It's happening today. So today, I hope you're ready. She is a writer. She's a social justice and human rights defender. Thandekile Moyo. Now that you hear the name, you're like, what? Exactly how I feel. Thandekile Moyo is best known on Twitter for her Twitter signature, #ZANU-PF must go. On her timeline, she shoots straight from the hip and she calls a spade a spade. She just does everything and she will continue to speak, so she says. And to many, she is the voice of the voiceless and the face of the revolution. She joins me today and I am excited. Welcome.
Hi, you flatter so much. But thanks, hi.
Hi. Okay. And then looking at the political leadership that we have now, do you see a possible leader? And what is it that you see in that leader? Or what do you think Zimbabwe needs now in terms of leadership going forward?
So, in my opinion, because we are fighting for democracy and not fighting for power, because I don't believe ZANU-PF must go is a movement that is fighting to grab power from ZANU-PF and keep it. Because I believe ZANU-PF must go is a people's movement. It's what I believe people are feeling deep down in their homes when they see all these things going on. So ZANU-PF must go movement is not a struggle for power. It's a fight for democracy. So I need to make that clear, because I see many people thinking maybe when you say ZANU-PF must go, you're saying MDC must come into power. I'm really not concerned about who comes into power after we remove the one-party state system, for as long as whoever comes into power is chosen by the people in free and fair elections. So what this means is I believe that people need to come together. Political parties, the MDC, I think we should forget about the MDCT, and that's purely my opinion.
Well, sorry, I've got a question. Don't even address it now. There's a question.
Okay. So, all right, fine. So I believe that political parties, trade unions, churches, business leadership, I believe everybody now needs to come together to remove these people perpetrating over a one-party state. We need Zimbabweans because I believe every Zimbabwean believes in democracy. That's why we participate in elections. And even the apathetic, they stopped participating in elections because they feel it doesn't give them the leaders that they want. So we all need to come together, forget about the politics, forget about this fight for power, and come together to push this system out, this system of misgovernance, this system of oppression. Once we have removed ZANU-PF from power, we strengthen our weak institutions, because a one-party state has been made possible by weak institutions, where our judiciary is now serving ZANU, our army is now serving ZANU, the police are serving ZANU, the RBZ is serving ZANU, all institutions in the country are serving ZANU-PF. So we need to remove ZANU-PF and restructure all our institutions so that we have a ZEC that is independent. We have a judiciary that is independent. I mean, they're experts in this field who can tell us how to restructure these systems. It's been done in all other countries that have had conflict before, in the spirit of transitional justice, where you are transitioning from a point of conflict to a point of peace, stability, reconciliation, development. So what we are trying to do is to say, we are in conflict. To end this conflict, we need to remove the perpetrator of the conflict. And for us to do that, Zimbabweans must come together. Forget about political power. which is something that Zimbabwean leaders fail to do. They fail to stop focusing on political power. And I see opposition leaders fighting for political power, which they don't have. How do you fight for something that none of you has? You're fighting for power, but all the power is in ZANU-PF. And it's senseless to me, honestly, to be fighting for power, because none of us have that power. The power is with ZANU-PF. We need to grab the power from ZANU-PF and put it back in the people, because essentially democracy is driven by people power. The people have the power to install leaders. So once we put the power back in the hands of the people, all these people can now fight for power. They can tear each other up for all we care. They can campaign however they want. They can do whatever they want, but the playing field will be level and the best man will win. But we're not there yet. Opposition should not even be fighting amongst each other, because there's nothing to fight for. Yeah.
Okay. So then now I'm forced to do my follow-up question, because I wanted to find out Uguti MDC, which I think is the strongest opposition at the moment for a number of years, is at war with itself. We're waking up each day, we have a headline, this and that. And then now there's the MDC-A, and then there's the MDC-T. I don't know now, which is now also the MDC-A, but then basically there's the MDC with the Chamisa, and then there's the MDC with Ukupe. What do you think? What is happening? What are the effects of MDC splitting up and doing what it is doing now? Uthokozani Kupe going back into parliament and being an MP, recalling members, and here Thandekile is out here saying #ZANU-PF must go. What are the effects of the opposition being at war with itself, like you're saying, fighting for power that they do not have at the moment?
So, to be honest with you, I do not think the Thokozani issue is MDC being at war with each other. This is ZANU-PF perpetuating a one-party state. What ZANU-PF has done is capture part of the opposition in a bid to make sure that opposition is firmly under their control. And this is an attack on MDC by ZANU-PF. I believe if we say this issue between MDC-T and MDC-A is opposition fighting, we are not being sincere. This is not your normal MDC split, like when Welshmen split from Changirai. This is not your split like when Tendai BT split from Changirai. This is an attack on opposition by a government that wants a one-party state. And they have done that the same way that they have captured all the other institutions we spoke about earlier. They captured the judiciary by capturing some judges. They have captured the opposition by capturing Thokozani Kupe and Monzora. This is clear for everybody to see. But this stops being an MDC fight. This stops being just the normal MDC factionalism, which I've always said, I don't want to involve myself in any party's factionalism. This is beyond factionalism, because what ZANU-PF has done is say to the people, you had elections in 2018 where Thokozani Kupe stood for election and Nelson Chamisa stood for election, and you rejected Thokozani Kupe and voted for Nelson Chamisa. But whether you like it or not, we are going to impose Thokozani as a leader. And I feel this is an attack on us. This is an attack on the people of Zimbabwe more than it is an attack on the MDC. Because they have removed the leaders that we voted for, the MPs. Because I actually take this personally, because I have been serious about voting for a number of years now. I mean, when the election happened, I was living in Harare, but I made sure that I registered to vote, and I went back, I came back home to vote. And I did that at my expense so that I would have a say in who becomes the member of parliament in my ward. so that I'll have say in who becomes a councillor in my home. And I went and I voted. The mayor that I voted for in Gwanda has been removed by Thokozani Kupi. The MPs that we voted for have been removed by Thokozani Kupi. And we need to realize that Thokozani Kupi is now working for a one-party state. She's working for ZANU-PF because everything that she's doing, if we ask ourselves, who is it benefiting? It's benefiting ZANU-PF. So it means that Thokozani Kupi is now a ZANU-PF employee who is hell-bent on protecting the one-party state. So it's extremely unfair of us to pretend that what is happening between MDCT and MDCA is factionalism. It is no longer factionalism. Factionalism is whatever else is happening amongst all these others now fighting for who's going to represent MDC in these coming elections and whatever. What this is happening is an attack on our democracy by the government that has captured part of the opposition. And they say to the people, we don't give a damn about who you voted for in 2018. We are going to remove those people and we're going to put the people that we want. And the instrument that they are using to do this is Thokozani Kupi.
Okay. So what do you think, in your opinion, is holding Zimbabweans back? Because like you're telling me, Uguti, you decided Uguti, from Harare, you'll go down to Gwanda to make sure that you vote and exercise your right. But what is it that is holding Zimbabweans from actively participating in all these national processes, even holding leaders accountable and demanding the Zimbabwe they want?
I think that we are victims of oppression, and it's so deeply entrenched in us to the point that whenever we see anyone being questioned, we think it's an attack because we're products of ZANU-PF. So like now, I have been criticizing MDCA. Now I don't even know who's who. I've been criticizing the Chamisa-led MDC for what I believe to be complacency, because I believe they could be doing so much more. But every time I voice that out, MDC supporters will come out guns blazing at me. I have actually come to a point where I believe that MDC supporters are as vicious to any dissenters as ZANU-PF supporters are. And in my personal situation, I have been attacked more by MDC supporters than I ever have been by Varakash. Wow. Because their attack has been so shocking to me and so severe to the point that I do not understand why MDC would feel threatened by a ZANU-PF must go movement. And it shows me just how deeply this ZANU-PF behavior and system is now part of our culture. So ZANU-PF, how they've maintained power is by fighting off all dissenters violently. And that is the culture that MDC has also adopted, that if anyone attacks our leader, we are going to go after them. We're going to go after their person. We're going to just attack, because we are not going to allow anyone to attack our leader. And you can't blame them, because that is the nature of our politics. That has been the nature of our politics for so long. Opposition has been under attack. So now they cannot differentiate between criticism from someone who's trying to build up the movement and criticism from someone who's trying to destroy the movement. So I think we need, as citizens, to also learn that holding leaders accountable is our responsibility. We have at every turn to question them about every decision that they make and all those things. So we need to learn that accountability is something that we deserve, and it's something that we should demand. Then there's also the issue of fragmentation. All our movements are fragmented, like all of them. If you look at teachers' unions, I was shocked yesterday to discover we've got 8 teachers' unions. I mean, how do they expect to even achieve anything. There's 8 teachers' unions fighting unilaterally. And they're not even, I mean, you have PTUZ talking about their own demands, Rural Teachers Association also their own, ZIMTA. We need to stop this business of everyone wanting to have power. The 8 teachers' unions says to me, there are 8 people that wanted to be leaders of teachers' unions. And they said, if I'm not going to be president of ZIMTA, I'm going to start my own. And then if I'm not going to be president of PTUZ, I'm going to start my own. So Zimbabweans are more interested in power than in actually developing our country, than in actually receiving gains, because what is on the ground is that power gives wealth. And so everyone knows that if I become the president of ZIMTA, I'm going to get a car, I'm going to get allowances, I'm going to get money. And that is unfortunate, because what is now happening is that all these leaders of these teachers' unions have become an elite. They're earning way more than the teachers are earning. And how on earth do you think that somebody living in a plush suburb can fight for you and understand what you're going through when they're not living your reality? So we now have elites being leaders of all our groups, be it political, be it trade union, be it what. And then now there's this, they're out of touch with the realities of the people that they're fighting for, which is why I think this fight is so flaccid, because the people that are fighting for us, they've got boreholes in their yards. All you need to do to understand this, go on Twitter and look at 10 leaders media. Just look for someone who's posting a picture in their house, and you see the plush leather sofas, and you see the paintings on the wall, and ask yourself, do you think this person will call for a demonstration for Uti Epumula Gulamans? Do you really think, they're touched by it, but they will never be moved by it to the point of facing the gun for it. And I think that is the biggest challenge we have now, of a ruling elite in all our structures: opposition, ruling party, trade unions, all those things. And because of that, they can't consolidate. You have the march you were talking about in January, where I ended up having to run, was called for by ZCTU. I had a run-in with MDC leaders on Twitter saying to them, why are you not endorsing this march? And they said, no, ZANU-PF is going to target MDC leaders. Excuse me, ZANU-PF will target opposition, yes, but is that not why you are leading opposition? Because you want to fight this oppression, you want to fight this system that targets opposition. So you now want to protect yourselves from being targeted. And leading and endorsing a demonstration does not mean that political leaders should be on the front lines. What we're simply asking for is for them to use their structures to help us when we protest. So I've attended almost every protest that has happened between 2018 and now. And I have seen the difference where MDC organized a protest, actually participated in it, and I've seen the mass attendance at those protests, as opposed to protests that are organized by some of these people, like the January ones by this trade union that we're talking about, ZCTU, right? So MDC did not endorse those protests, and their people did not come out. Those who did came out in their personal capacity, but it was not in an organized manner, to the point that after we were dispersed by police, people did not know what to do after that, because the protest was not organized. I think Zimbabweans need to understand that our protests fail because there is no organization. There is no one telling us that, okay, police aseligijimisile, asihlanganeni at the Nkomo statue after 30 minutes and start again. And some of us unknowns cannot make that call at protests, because you need to realize the Twitter constituency and the constituency on the ground are completely different. It's for this reason why someone like Hopewell, who is so popular on social media, and Jacob Ngarivume called for protests on the 31st of July, but people on the ground don't know Hopewell. They don't know the work that he has been doing to expose corruption. They don't know about drugs. They don't know about all these things. So when they hear that a protest has been called on 31 July by Hopewell Chinpono or by Jacob, they're like, and we're still in Bulawayo. They're like, who the hell are those people? And you see, so Zimbabweans need to understand that there's a social media constituency, and there's a constituency of people who have no access to social media because of our economic collapse. They have no access to social media. So even today, when Thandekile Moyo has called for a protest on the 30th, maybe you guys don't feel welcome. But who in Kwazana, they'll be like, who the hell is she?
Yeah,
yes, and they'll be suspicious because we have had so many people pretend to be opposing ZANU-PF, yet they are part of it. So our politics is clouded by suspicion. So we need somebody that is known online and offline to coordinate people and to bring these fragmented groups together, because we're all fighting for the same thing, in my opinion. And for the longest time, I believe that Nelson Chamisa is that leader, because I know for a fact how loved he is, even by people on the ground. He's charismatic. People love him. People listen to him. I've seen him speak. I've attended his rallies. And I know I've seen the effect he has on people. And I know that, I mean, it's unfair of me to be burdening somebody else with this. But I know the power that he has. I wish that he also knew the power that he has and that he could embrace it. And it does not need for him to march with the people, but it needs for him to lend to the movement his structures, his communication tools that can reach out to so many people, and his endorsement. Because Zimbabweans, we may deny it, we may think it's terrible, but Zimbabweans believe in leadership. That is why when Nelson calls for something, people jump up. And when Jacob calls for something, very few people jump up. It's just the reality on the ground. So if the MDCA cannot do that, it means that somebody else needs to now do all that work of becoming known, of trying to bridge social media and the people on the ground. And that's going to take a long time, but it does not mean that it's not doable. I mean, if you look at the Sudan revolution, people will tell you, no, it was triggered by something, it just erupted. At the moment it erupted, opposition leaders came together and they planned the trajectory of that uprising. They would come together, they would discuss, so what do we do next? They would put out bulletins to people who would ask, we're going to stay here. It doesn't happen on its own. Protests, for them to be successful, need to be sustained, and they need to be organized, and they need a communication tool between leadership and the people. And without that, we're always going to have these protests where we just go to the city hall, mill around, run around in town for 30 minutes and go back home. Because with nothing being achieved, for protests to work, they must be sustained, they must be organized, and that is the missing ingredient in Zimbabwean politics. And there must be unity. So what all these organizations need to know is that they're not fighting for power, because there's no power to fight for as long as ZANU-PF is in power. They're fighting to remove the elephant in the room that has caused this one-party state problem. Once they remove that elephant in the room, we get experts from wherever. They come, they reform our judiciary, they reform our ZEC, and then they'll be campaigning for whatever positions that they want. After a few years, we have elections, and yeah.
Speaking of all these protests, we did have hashtag Zimbabwe Lives Matter. And many people, especially because you're talking about social media constituency and the constituency that is on the ground, that is everyday people that will not care what is on social media. The creative world, especially known-knowns, superstars, celebrities, I don't know how else to name them, were called out, and some of them will forever be held for that. Ukuthi they did not tweet ukuthi hashtag Zimbabwe Lives Matter. What are your thoughts on that, on celebrities being part of this? Is it a forced matter, or is it something that they feel they must? Because we've seen in Nigeria doing it with Isaz and Otavito, Openapo, and all those people going forward. And we've seen our Twitter constituents in Zimbabwe saying, if only our celebrities had done that, then probably something else would have happened. What are your thoughts? Do you think our celebrities must do it, and if they don't do it, they must face the wrath of the people, or it's something that people must do ngokufuna kwabo or ngokubona kwabo? Like you're saying, in every system there are people that are benefiting, there are people that are not benefiting.
It's not a forced matter, but when you choose not to stand with the people, you cannot then cry when the people refuse to stand with you. Okay. Because the people are also not forced to stand with you. Mm-hmm. So nothing happens by force. Like in this Japreza situation that happened recently, people believe Japreza, for whatever reason, refused to stand with them in the Zimbabwean Lives Matter issue. So what's wrong with Zimbabweans refusing to stand with him when he votes? That's how democracy works. Japreza has got every right to distance himself from this movement, and the people have got every right to distance themselves from him when he needs them. It's just as simple as that. But we cannot deny the fact that when celebrities jump onto this, it gains traction. It's just simple. It's just like how even the ZANU-PF must go movement. Many people are afraid to say that, and you'll find that very few leaders will jump on the ZANU-PF must go movement because they believe that it's not safe for them to do so, or they believe that it's a threat to their own parties and whatever. And you can't force people to do that, which is why I have just been consistent in saying whether people join or they don't, I'm going to push it, you know. But if ever this movement takes off, leaders should then not be surprised when people say to them, but you refuse to jump on this bandwagon, because they did refuse to jump on it. So, I mean, life happens that way, that you reap what you sow.
Okay, and then the state of women, safety of women, women's issues, be it health. We're seeing babies dying, we're seeing pregnant women dying. Women, I think almost every other day, you wake up to a headline of a woman that has been killed by her lover. We've seen an increase in abuse cases. What is, I don't even know what, the state of women in, I guess, the Second Republic in Zimbabwe now? Because we constitute a majority, but we don't seem to have the voice.
Well, you see, wherever there is conflict, women bear the brunt of it. And that is exactly what is happening here in Zim. We bear the brunt of it because, as you're explaining in the health sector, women are caregivers. Women are the ones giving birth. When our husbands fall sick, we are the ones who take care of them. When our children fall sick, we are the ones who take care of them. So whenever there's a collapse in the health sector, it affects women the most. Whenever there's a collapse in municipalities, it affects women the most. Women are the ones most affected by water shortages. How many men do you see at the borehole in line to fetch water? Very few. You are likely only to see bachelors or maybe boys that have been sent by their mothers. But the burden is on women to make sure that there's water in the house, to make sure that there's food in the house. They have to cook that food. So they bear the brunt of the water shortages. When there's electricity shortages, it's the same story. We're the ones that now have to look for firewood and cook over the fire. So women are most affected, but sadly, we are also the least outspoken in most cases. But when you look at Zimbabwe now, you realize that there is so many women coming up and speaking out. And I believe that will be the turning point of our revolution, because us being the most affected should push us to also be the most vocal. And once we do that, because I believe what is lacking in Zimbabwe is voices speaking out about this. And most of it is out of fear, because we know that our government kills. And I struggle to blame people for not speaking out, because I know the consequences of speaking out. I'm living those consequences. So for someone who has no other source of income to speak out, an employee of the government to say ZANU-PF must go, I know that it means that they're going to lose their job. So I can't blame people for that. I also can't blame women for that, because how many women can afford to be run out of their homes? Some women, I'm lucky because I've got such a strong support system around me, but everybody has that. So, but I think women must speak out. I think we must lead this revolution because we are the most affected.
Okay. Wow. Yes, I agree. Exactly. I agree. Women, we've got the voice. Ngiyavumelana lawo. Most recently, I think about a month ago, your credentials, your street cred, that's what they call it. That's what the young ones call it, is street cred. Your street cred was questioned before an apology. Your street cred was questioned by Fatai Mahere and all your soldiers. That's when we knew you were the queen of the revolution, because all your soldiers went cow horn formation on her. And we saw an apology. But for some, even the apology was not enough. But you started a thread, and then somewhere along the line you said, actually, I don't need to explain myself. Let us concentrate on the main thing. Let's not start with the wasting energies. How did that make you feel, though?
Well, I mean, that happened at a point in my life where I was facing so much, to be honest. I think it was unfortunate because it happened soon after the Tawanda abduction.
Yes.
Which left me with rape threats, which had, I mean, after that, I've got people watching my home. I feel I'm under so much attack. And I felt that I was a victim of not telling people everything that's going on around me. Because I believe if I were the kind of person who comes to Twitter, I mean, people believe I'm an open book. So I guess if I don't say something is going on, they believe it's not going on. But in as much as I'm an open book, I'm also an extremely private person. It's a paradox, and it's difficult for so many people to understand. So when that happened, I broke down. It really broke me because I was left asking myself, why am I even bothering? You know, like you feel you are fighting so hard. And in as much as I'm fighting for myself, I also realize that if the fight succeeds, a lot of people are going to benefit from it. And you expect naturally that people will rally behind you. So that would have turned out different if I wasn't already going through so many personal struggles at the time. So I took offense, which I would not have taken, I think, if it had happened any other time. And but when I look back at it now, I realize that probably that's how Fatai felt as well.
Okay.
That because how it started is I responded to a tweet she had put out about Zimbabweans being lazy and not and relegating their agency to somebody else, which is quite true. I responded to her as the MDC spokesperson and not as her, the person. So when I look back at it, I think maybe she also took offense and felt she was being attacked personally, hence the response that was also personal.
Okay.
You know, so I think that was just an unfortunate incident of two people that are so overwhelmed by what's going on, because I know that Fatai is under attack herself. and I'm under attack myself. So I think because of that, I sincerely believe that's what led the conversation to go in that direction. Because when I look back at it, I believe she took offense at my saying, how dare you look down upon your support base. And I then also took offense at her asking me, what were you doing on the 31st of July? So it just blew out of proportion. But I mean, I look up to Fazai. I think that's also why it was such a blow to me, because I look up to Fazai. I mean, she has done so much, and as a woman, and knowing how terrible the political space is for women, I really think she's doing a great job. And it's unfortunate that happened. I wish it had not happened, but it did. And I believe it was great that it also ended that way, with an apology and people moving on, because I really don't think that there is any need for us to fight as the people that are fighting against ZANU-PF. But it also made me feel better that people spoke out on my behalf. I don't want to lie. It made me feel better because I sank so low. My spirits were so low on the day, because then, you know, I was starting to question my worth, basically, to question why I'm even doing this and for who I'm doing it, you know. So yeah, I had so many questions. But when people then came out and said, no, but we see what Mamo is doing, well, I mean, I've always said I don't need validation, but that validation on that particular day really did a lot to soothe my broken heart.
How information? I say, boy, how information? Don't come
yeah,
for.
But it you know, it also worries me a bit, because I'm really not happy about this protection of people from from what is the word? From criticism. Yeah. I mean, we should have a space where someone can say to Mamo, wena uyahlanya vele kanti vele udume ngani. And we should not take offense. You know, we should be able to say, no, this is what I'm doing, and this is how it's going, and blah blah blah. So I mean, it's the space that we were talking about earlier. Yeah. It's already so
clouded. Yeah, and people are easy.
Exactly. So I pray we get to a point where, you know, we can criticize each other, we can ask each other, and it's not such a terrible thing, you know. But because of our politics, because of also regional politics, because that thing turned tribal so quick, I was shocked at how quickly
it was early in the morning, guys. Do you know what? That's nagadile tea, that's nagadile porridge, and it was like, wow.
You see, so like it shows. I'm actually doing a research on the intergenerational effects of Gukurahundi, and how it's affecting our interethnic how we view each other and all those things. So that to me was an example of the effects of Gukurahundi, the effects of institutional tribalism, the effects. I mean, come on, what does Fazai know really about marginalizing the people of Matebeleland? We need to cut people some slack. I mean, she's not responsible for any of that, but she's a victim of a system that has pit us up against each other. And it's sad. It's something we need to address. There really needs to be peace and reconciliation between our tribes.
It does. You spoke about this before. Just to follow up, how do you stay on the path of activism, of genuine activism, at a time when what has now been called cashivists are coming through. You were saying that there are people that come forward and pretend to be something that they're not, and find out that they, in the whole time, whether they're selling out or they're crossing floors or they're at work. How do you trust? How does one work and know that you're working for the same cause with someone that has the same ideas as you? At a time when abantu, you're not sure what they say about.
I don't trust anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's my simple answer. I do not trust anyone, and that is why you will find that my movement is mostly, I believe that everybody, I believe NOPF Must Go should be your movement, and you articulate it how you want, and I articulated how I want, and then one day those movements should converge into a mass movement or mass action of some type. I believe, because when I say ZANU-PF must go, I'm speaking for myself. I'm speaking about my experiences, which I assume are the experiences of millions of others. I don't believe in this voice of the voiceless thing. I honestly I don't want to be the voice of the voiceless, because I do not want to be in a system that has voiceless people. So what I'm trying to do with the ZANU-PF Must Go movement is to say, please guys, speak out, say what you're feeling. I mean, no, I can't articulate your issues for you because I have certain privileges that you don't have, and I'll never be able to explain your situation. You are the only person that can fight for your own situation. So ZANU-PF Must Go, how I envision it is, I wish it could turn into a movement that's not even about me, you know, that's just about Zimbabweans and who is affecting Zimbabweans and people speaking out on their own behalf about this. So I don't trust anyone. I don't want to turn this into an organization where now there has to be leadership, there has to be what, because I believe it's people power. I believe that it's all our individual voices coming together and under one hashtag, ZANU-PF Must Go. But what comes before the hashtag is explanations by different people of what they feel and what they're experiencing. So, and that has protected me a lot, because what it means is that I don't have to work with anyone. Particularly, I don't need funding for it, because all I need is just my phone and my voice. And how I work with others is by supporting whatever they're doing, their programs. So if someone says to me, we're having a demonstration where, please join us, then I do that. But I really don't want this to be organizational. I'm not a fan of organizations at all. I believe that everybody must speak out for themselves, and we can be united by this hashtag, but millions of us saying exactly what we believe and what we wish could happen in our country.
So I wanted to ask you, looking back from when you started, from the publishing house, and how far you've gone, everything you've gone through, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, do you ever regret making the decision to take a stand?
No, I do not regret it at all. I believe that I could not live with myself had I gagged myself and suppressed my voice. So I have no regrets, and I have no intention of stopping.
Are you ever afraid that something horrible, more horrible, I don't know if there's more horrible, if that's even English, but will happen to you or your loved ones? We know there's been, like you just spoke about it, that loved ones are being taken, and we're living in a time when people are being taken, disappearing, dying, and all that. Do you live in constant fear?
Well, I live with that threat every day of my life, and I am conscious of it. So I also increase my security as the threats increase. So which means, yes, I'm afraid that that will happen, but I'm not living my life in fear and thinking, well, I should stop. No, I've done everything also in my power to protect myself from any harm coming to me. And if it then does happen, it will happen.
Mm. If you had the opportunity to address, say, President of Zimbabwe, Idi Mnangagwa, and to address Nelson Chamisa, what would you want to say to them?
To the president, I would.
Which president?
You know,
Which president?
the president of Zimbabwe. I really don't have anything to say, to be honest. I mean, I don't believe in I'm pragmatic, so I don't think there's anything that I could say to him that he would listen to. So I don't have anything to say to him. I just wish he would step down, but that's just wishful thinking and so unpragmatic that I don't think I should waste my time thinking of what I would say to him. I have nothing to say to him. I just wish his system could just go, you know. Well, I could warn him maybe that there's so many opportunities for him right now to actually and I don't want to personalize this to be about him, for him and his party to get out with less damage done to them, because the window is still open for some sort of dialogue, which I really don't want myself, but I know that there are people who are still willing to talk to ZANU-PF. So I think I would warn him that the window is closing, and it's closing really fast for any kind of solution that will leave them with the little of their dignity left intact. Because the more they keep repressing us, the more the number of people that is going to start expressing their dissent. So the window is closing. Because our economy has collapsed, it means more and more people will start speaking out. And it's not going to end well for them. They've got the power right now to set the trajectory of this situation. So if I were them, I would take that chance and save myself, basically. To Nelson Chamisa, it's the same situation. I mean, I find this so pointless. I'm sorry. I'm finding this question so, but yeah, I mean,
okay.
If you had asked me a few months ago, I would have said to Nelson Chamisa, please lead the revolution. I believe he's got the legitimacy. I believe he's got the support, and I believe he's got the structures and the tools to lead a revolution to free Zimbabwe. So I guess what I would say to him right now is, could you please focus on freeing Zimbabwe and not on getting MDCA into power? That will happen once Zimbabwe is free from oppression and state capture, then the popular person will get into, at the moment, that's him. So I wish they could forget about all these fights, these squabbles, and focus on ZANU-PF must go. I'm not trying to recruit them, but yeah, I do wish that they could focus on removing the oppressor more than on taking over from the oppressor.
And the future of Zimbabwe, from where you sit, what does it look like?
The future seems bleak right now, but the power is in our hands, as the people of Zimbabwe, to decide what our future is going to be. And if we continue just sitting back and letting these people do what they want, then the country is just going to continue on the downward spiral. It has already collapsed, so we can't even say it's going to collapse. So it's just going to stay as it is. But if we decide to stand up and resist this, then our country can prosper. Our country can be rebuilt. I mean, Zimbabwe has got everything. We've got the human resources, we've got the physical resources, we've got peaceful people. And I believe in the need for peace, for development to happen. So we've got people already that have shown that violence is not their chosen solution for anything. So yeah, we've got everything that we need for us to come together and build our country, but we have to be able to stand up and resist this oppression that's going on.
Wow. Your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, a request to people. Please use the hashtag ZANU-PF must go. Because I believe that everybody must have a voice. And I believe that, I mean, if you can't be brave enough to go and protest in the street, can you please, at least be brave enough to protest online? I mean, nobody's going to shoot you for using that hashtag. No one's going to throw tear gas at you in your house. So I believe protests are just that. It's people protesting against something, and they can be done from anywhere. Demonstrations is people demonstrating against something that they're not happy with, and that can be done from anywhere. So don't allow people to tell you, hey, Twitter doesn't work, whatever. Just protest. If online protests are what is available to you right now and what feels safe for you right now, please, let's protest online. Our voices need to be heard. There has to be a record that what we are saying is what the majority of Zimbabweans are feeling. So if you leave this to just a few people to do, it does not reflect that this is the feeling of the majority of Zimbabweans. So don't let us speak for you. Please speak for yourself. If you believe that ZANU-PF must go, can you please use the hashtag and say it? Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Thandekile, for your time, for coming to talk on Queening with the Empress. Thank you. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
No, thanks. It was so much fun to have someone to talk to. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Listening to Thandekile talk, I think for my royal thoughts, it's very emotional to know that it's she's young. She could be doing like so many other things. Like she says that at times she even gets she questions why she's doing it, and then she has to remind herself, and she has no regrets on taking a stand and speaking out. So for many other young people that are not speaking out, that are not standing up, that are not using their voices, like she said, she doesn't want to be the voice of the voiceless because she does not want to be in a community that does not have people with voices. So it makes me wonder, what are the rest of us doing? Are we quiet because we're afraid? Are we quiet because we don't know what's happening? Are we quiet because we are okay? Like we did say that there's levels. So why are we quiet? And for those that will go at her, like I said, we've been trying to get an interview to sit down and talk, and it's been hard. And she did share with me that her DM is a minefield. So for people to feel that she can express her constitutional right of speaking out so that she's silenced and then they can have the say. I don't know if they're even going to have the say, or they just want her to be silenced and nothing else. That is very worrying for us in 2020, to have people that still want to silence women's voices, to have people that still want to take away our rights, our freedom of speech, and to think that we pride ourselves in being the literacy, our literacy levels are very
93% literacy rate.
93%. Yet, with 93%, Liliana, our actions somehow don't level up to this knowledge, because the things that we do on social media, we spoke about how there's a social media Twitter constituency and there's on the ground. But the things that we do on the social media, people are vile, people are horrible, people balenhlamba. And I wonder at times if we had to look at each other, would people be able to do the things that they say? For someone's child, to live with rape threats, to live with death threats, to live, that is too much. And who's doing this? And to what effect? So Joshua Nkomo is known to have said that it is the young people that will change things. Many people say that. Usolomoni Mahlangu in South Africa also said that my blood will rise up and blah, 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 blah. So for young people, what are you doing with your time? What are you lending your voice to? That's something that I think maybe we need to question and answer. What are you lending your voice to? And to the women, taking from what Thandekile said, she said we're the most burdened, we're the most vulnerable. And she believes, as I do, that as the majority of this country, as the majority of the globe, it is when we come together and say, okay, now we are doing it, because look, others have been trying to do it and they've been failing. So now that we are doing it, we will see a change in our country, in our region, in the world. Women, we need to come together and do things, stand up for each other, show up for each other, support each other. So I think those are my royal thoughts for the day, that we need to question ourselves. Who and what are we lending our voices to? And that women, we need to rise up, speak up, show up, speak out, and our country will get back. We'll get back. I believe in our country. So from me, thank you so much. Don't forget to follow Site ZW across all social media platforms so that you are always on the pulse with what's happening everywhere, right? And stay safe, everyone. Stay warm, depending, because the weather changes. It's warm one moment, it's cold the next. But please just stay safe, because the virus is still around. Stay safe. Love yours. Hard. And from me and everybody here, Queening with the Empress, thank you so much and goodbye.